Couldn't resist.
We're going to talk today about the art of taking really, really great portraits to the next level, which Sharon really excels at. And I want to thank you for joining us here in this live stream, Newport, Oregon, Manhattan Beach, California.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to get out and come back to the studio. We've been closed, like you guys over there. We're closed down, so it's nice to come back in and talk to people.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Now, before we jump into pictures, I have to say I did something really weird today. I went to Newport Beach and Huntington Beach, where nothing has changed. It's endless summer. All the gals were in bikinis. All the boys were in board shorts. They were surfing and swimming. I saw 10 teenage boys playing football on the sand. I couldn't believe it.
You won't see that here in Newport. It's eerily quiet. It's yeah. I'm looking out the window over here, and it's just weird.
Well, in a beach community, they come out. I mean, they come out, and it's supposed to be 90 degrees tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. But people tune in to hear about photos. Let's start with one of your greats. I'm going to hide myself so you can talk about this one. Speaking of sports, tell everybody about this picture.
Oh, well, first of all, that's my boy. He is a senior this year, and he is a baseball fanatic. I mean, he lives and breathes and eats baseball. So naturally, when he wanted his senior portraits, that's what we decided to do. We do two separate portrait sessions. One's kind of your regular traditional portraits, and then we do the specialty session. The specialty sessions, we go all out. We do them at night or in the water. Anything that you can think of, the crazier the better. So this one is more specialty lit. So we've got the big lights on him and making him look super casual.
Why don't you tell everybody what big lights are? Like, what are you using?
Well, I actually brought them here just in case you want to look at them. We use the Interfit lights. The S1s. We use quite a few of these. We love kind of that dramatic light without having the real hard shadows. So we use the big soft boxes, which I ended up, just in case, have a sample here. It's about a 48-inch octabox, and so we tried to do some real dramatic lighting. Even in the back where the seats are, you can't see it, but we backlit those seats up so you can really see the blue in there. So everything ties in really nicely.
Now, these lights we're talking about are what you see, what you get. These are not flashes. These are continuous lights.
No, these are strobe. So
okay.
it's a little bit more interesting. We don't use continuous lighting here mostly because we do some high-speed syncing, and so those need to be really, real high burst of power. So everything that we do in the studio is mostly strobe.
How many lights did you bring to this shoot?
That one was 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to remember where we placed them all. I'm trying to see where all the catch lights are. So 4.
Okay, now I'm going to bring you to another picture and then ask you another question about that. But why don't you start off? Well, first of all, I have to ask, you're in Oregon. Oregon's known for one thing. First, rain. So you're bringing all these lights out. Do you only take pictures in the summer? How do you handle it?
Oh no, we will photograph in the rain. Gosh, I wish I would have sent you some rain images. No, we'll photograph in the rain. We'll photograph in the fog, in all of the coastal weather. Our biggest challenge is actually not the rain, it's the wind. So the wind with these 48-inch soft boxes, we have to keep them on really heavy duty C-stands, and it's one valve per light, so one voice activated light stand per light. So basically I have one person per light on each of our sessions.
Well, as you know, I live at the beach, and the soft boxes were a killer. I watched one umbrella just fly into the air. I had to switch to beauty dishes because they didn't move around as much.
Yeah, and we love the beauty dishes. We have a couple of them, but it's really the intensity of the light with the softness of the shadows that we love. And so the beauty dishes are great for one thing, like when we're doing stuff in the studio, we're doing studio headshots and that real dramatic lighting. But for the outdoors, that's why it's one person per light. So sometimes, a lot of people around here, they'll photograph, and if they use lights, they kind of stick them in the sand. But here we come out, we probably look ridiculous, but then we get the images. I kind of try to bring what I need according to what I have in mind. And so we get the images that I've already drew up in my mind. It gets interesting though.
Okay, you're a portrait photographer in Newport, and when people sign up to have pictures of their kids taken, do they realize the extent of what you're going to do here, or
They
do they
do
just say, "Oh,
actually.
that's pretty, I like it"?
So we get people, clients that come in based on what they've seen on our website. And then once we do the consultation, we tell them what is involved with our sessions. Our sessions are about an hour and a half. We pretty much photograph what we need within about an hour and 10 minutes. We give ourselves a little extra time just in case the wind catches up or we have to change plans. But it is pretty labor intensive. It's usually at minimum 3 of us. Sometimes it's 4 of us. There's an image in there that took 8 of us to come up with. So we don't mind the intensity of it because that's what separates us from everyone else in our community and around us. It's a lot of work, but I love it, especially when you look in the back of the camera and you get the image you want, and that's pre-Photoshop and pre-color correction and all of the other fun things that you add on in the end.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people out there that might be thinking, well, gosh, I'm pretty good with a camera, but I don't have 8 people to go out with me. I don't have 4 people to go with me. I may be lucky to get 1. So what would you recommend? Off-camera flash? What are some of your ideas?
I would always recommend an off-camera flash. Even your flash, your Canon flashes, or your I don't know how to say narrow flashes. They're pretty.
The speed lights.
Yes,
The speed lights.
Sorry, yes, the speed lights. There's some that are better than others, of course. However, when I first started off, I used speed lights. I used more of the least inexpensive speed lights until I could afford the fewer better speed lights, if that makes sense. So 13 years later, I can bring 8 people into a session, but I couldn't do that before. So, we had the stands, and then I would literally tape speed lights to places that I didn't have a stand for or couldn't make it work. So creativity. I don't think I'm naturally creative. I think it was born out of a necessity. Like I had to
But
figure out things.
you can buy a light stand for $15-20. You can get an adapter to put your flash on there. You can buy little soft boxes to put on the flash, and you can put gels and colors and things. I'm doing something silly back here. Let's see, which way do I go? That way. So those are Philips Hue lights that you could change colors. And if I was lower lit right now, it would be pretty strong. Look pretty cool. But there's all sorts of things you could do with gels and soft boxes, and it does not have to cost a fortune. Your light probably is a $200-300 light that you showed me a minute ago.
No, that's a few $100s.
Okay.
So this one now is about 600 or 700. When I bought them, the first time I bought them, they were $1,200.
Wow.
We have 6 of these now, and I've broken 5.
Those things happen. You're going to drop things. It's just the nature of the beast. But the gear has gotten way cheaper. You can buy lights for $200 that are battery powered, and take it with you everywhere, which is pretty amazing. Let's go ahead.
I was going to tell you, when we first started off, and before, when we had speed lights, even to get some lighting effects, I would use tactical flashlights. Lighting is such a really cool thing. Whatever you can use, you can find a way to make it work. And I use tissue too.
I bought
as a modifier. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, let me get this over here. 1 second. $6
Yes.
LED lamp. I bought it at Target this morning. It's a little bright. My dream is that this is going to be the webcam light, but
Nice.
it's going to have to be further away. When it was here, it was just too close. But so I've got to do a bunch of tests.
So I got to be honest with you. I had for this interview, I have a brand new light. It's a beautiful ring light, but it was too bright, so I wrapped all of the original packaging around it. And I think it's working pretty well. But like I said, you know, I I was worried about having a really good lighting for where we were at, and I'm like, okay, what do I have here to make it work? And it works.
So you're using a ring light.
I am for this interview, yes.
Okay, well, it looks really good. I'm using window light.
we There's no light outside today. It's a bad, ugly, awful 25-mile-an-hour windy, soggy day.
Oh,
It doesn't help at all.
it's supposed to be 90 degrees in Southern California tomorrow.
I was jealous when you said that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's look at a picture. Talk about this picture and what you did to get to make it happen.
Okay, so I love this. Anytime that we can have anything moving, especially water where the light will catch it, I absolutely love that. This was a spectacular sunset. It was in the middle of these fires. So anytime we have fires around here, well, I'm sure you know where you guys are as well, then it brings up these beautiful orange and purpley type of skies. And so I brought the camera down low to be able to catch the light from the sun going to, you know, through the water. And then we have two lights on her, but we have them at full power so that you can see the sun in the background and as a little bit of a burst of starbeam. But we also used an ND filter. So I use an ND filter in almost everything because I really like the skies to be the color that I see them. And then we use all of the lights to fill and to color our subject.
So what do you think your exposure was? What was your shutter speed?
Oh, gosh. Well, the shutter speed, I try, unless we're doing a sports portrait where we need a faster shutter, I like that sweet spot about 125.
And then are you at f16 or f11 or 8 or something like that?
I'm gonna say probably a little higher than f8, not quite an f16 though. Just because we've got that little burst in the back. But I did have the ND filter, so it's really hard for me to gauge what I had.
Well, it's really amazing shot. I'm sure the parents were thrilled.
Thanks. Oh, she loves it. We actually have a sample of that in here in the studio.
Okay, let's look at another picture. You didn't really talk. We showed this, but we didn't talk about it. So talk about that.
So that one, we actually photographed action shots of him. He's on his bike, and we have him jumping through the air. And just before we were done, the sky lit up. That's like a garbage container thing behind him, but it just tied in so well with all of the colors. I love anything industrial, anything that's color, rusty lines, things like that. So we threw the lights back up. You can see the harsh shadows on there. So I think what we did, instead of setting the soft boxes back up, we probably used the cones for that. And then you can see where we put the lights, one on each side, but to kind of counterbalance the sunset in the back. That was a fun shoot. They gave us the whole track for like 2.5 hours to use. Awesome.
Okay, so what do you got going on here?
So we try to tell our seniors, the seniors get really excited when they come here because as soon as they say, I have an idea, but I'm not sure if you can do it, I take that as a challenge accepted. So he has this particular senior has a little motorbike. His parents were totally fine with him having some fully covered so you couldn't see his face. And he had this idea of having color behind him. Well, you've been here to Newport. We don't have calm days. We took a sliver of what had like 2-mile-per-hour winds. We ran out and we set the smoke these colored smoke bombs off, and we backlit it. So we backlit the light. We put a light in the back to light the bridge, and then we put the light on front of him. So this is 3 to 4 lights that we used, so you could see all of the details. But it's really dramatic, and we did that
Now,
right underneath our Yaquina Bridge. It's pretty iconic here.
okay, so did the parents say, "Beautiful shot, but I can't see my son"?
No, because the other images, they all have his visor up. So this one was my favorite one because
Yeah.
I was like, I'm talking to him and I'm like, all right, I need you to smile for me. And I'm like, no, I need you to smile more. And he was like, I am. And I'm like, yeah, do you get it now? And so that was him doing this, like, oh gosh. And I'm like, oh, it was perfect.
And when they signed you up, did you say, "I got this idea. I'm going to charge you this much money for the photo session and this much money for the bombs, and we're going to put bombs and we're going to do this," or did that just come up afterwards?
So I just do a session fee and I say, this is what we have in mind. This is what the session is going to cost. And then everything else we do, we take care of. But once I told him about the color smoke, I mean, the kid just, I mean, he went from not wanting to do the session at all to, oh my gosh, are we really going to do this? I'm like, yes, but it may have to happen on a moment's notice. If we walk outside and there's no wind, we're meeting at the bridge. Oh, this one.
So you could hear me. Yeah, you were so happy when you pulled this off. Yeah, you took Canon 5Ds underwater at a local pool. Tell everybody the story.
Okay, so this one is a fun one. The very first water session I did, and it really wasn't even an underwater session, was for his sister a few years back. And that was one of my all-time favorite sessions. So I felt the pressure when I was dealing with little brother, like, how do you make 2 swimmer sessions 4 years apart, 3 years or 4 years apart, very good, but not the same, and one doesn't outshine the other. And so he challenged me to go underwater. So we did. We got a casing. For this one, we had no underwater lighting gear. So we timed it with the sun of the pool. This is an outdoor pool. And then we used some flashlights, some tactical flashlights on top. You can't really see it. You could see it enough because it really lit the bubbles up. But this one was work. So what I was going to say with the last image with the last image in this one is we practice when we have sessions like this where timing is really critical. We practice these. So like with the smoke bomb, we practiced the moves in like 5 separate moves over 30 seconds that it was going to be lit. And then we would go back and forth and back and forth. And then once we lit the smoke bomb, then we would do each move that we had practiced. Same thing with the pool. I would get myself into position. It's really hard. This was my very first underwater session, so I didn't know that I needed weights to keep me down. So this one was really difficult because I kept having to push myself down, get into position, hold myself, and then have him do. So we timed everything. But when I saw this in the camera, I'm like, I jumped out of the pool. I opened up I'm like, you guys have to see this. That's one of my prized images.
So what would have happened if you just took your 5D underwater and just snapped the image? What would this have looked like without anything extra?
Really dark, very blue, and a lot of trial and error. It took a while to figure out the settings underwater and the worst part is that it's in an underwater housing. And so not all of your navigational buttons are, are at your fingertips. I mean, they are, you just can't get to them. And so it was a lot of going in there, trying to find the settings. Now you can meter outside, but as soon as you go in the water, it changes. And depending on the direction, if you're shooting straight and you're just above the water line, that's one level of light. If you're shooting down, that's a whole nother level of light. So you really have to plan everything. I learned a lot on this lesson. I think I lost a few pounds too. It's
Um,
great.
let's take a moment and tell everybody about yourself. Newport, Oregon based photographer. You've been doing photography for how long?
For, oh, 14, a little over
For,
14, I just hit 14 years, yes.
and what got you into photography?
Oh goodness, I was a graphic designer, and I was hiring photographers to do some marketing products for me, and then I couldn't articulate the way I wanted the light to hit, the way I wanted the product to look, and so I, as a designer, I would just go in and Photoshop it. It was just driving me nuts that all of my profits were going to photographers who weren't hearing what I needed. So I got a camera, a little Canon Rebel, and I wasn't a very good photographer, but I was good enough in Photoshop to fix every mistake and to add my shadows. And then a friend of mine asked me if I would photograph her wedding. And so I did, not as it wasn't a big extravagant wedding. It was a backyard wedding. I fell in love with the whole process. So I hired a mentor. I learned under him. I kept schooling, increasing my education for that. And I just fell in love with it.
And
So I went.
this is in Newport or somewhere else?
This was in California. So I started off in California as a wedding photographer in the Bay Area, so San Francisco Bay Area. And by the time we came to Newport, I had 52 weddings the year we moved to Newport. So I had to fly back every single weekend to photograph these weddings. I took a few months off after that first year. I was okay with never seeing a plane again. And then when I opened up, the wedding industry here is a little different. But once I started photographing families and kids and seniors, it was really the senior high school students I love so much because we can do crazy things. It's hard to talk a bride in white into putting, neon blue smoke bombs behind her wedding dress. Like, it just doesn't go as well. You tell a senior high school student that, and they're like, "Are you serious? We can do that?"
So the business took off. You're based in Newport. You are married to a fisherman who
Yes.
goes out and fishes for crabs, or what does he pick up?
Yes. So he fishes for albacore, salmon, halibut. He long lines for black cod, and then he crabs in the winter.
And so
So
COVID has not affected fishing right now, right?
no, no,
Okay,
nope.
that's good.
Yeah, so he's getting ready to make another trip tomorrow.
So tell us what the status is of being a photographer in Newport right now during a COVID crisis. What's it like?
Um, we're all shut down. So with us, we saw the writings on the wall. We don't deal with very many newborns or anything like that. But the week before this COVID crisis hit, we had photographed a 6-day-old baby. And so for us, it was a really easy decision to say that, we can't, at this point, we're going to wait to see, under the direction of our governor. We knew it was closing. We could just tell from everywhere else. I have friends in New York and New Jersey. So it was obvious to us. We closed a little bit earlier before we were mandated to. Our area hasn't been hit too hard, not like you guys over there in California or Washington or even back east. We've had 5 confirmed cases in our county, in our entire county. So we're really rallying to try to soft open. I think in light of everything that's happening, we can do that. Photographers can do that because we can keep that distance. I mean, so I don't
Right,
photograph with a
long
24/7.
lens. Yeah,
Yeah, I
long
use a
lens.
7200. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah,
And we'll
but
just power our lights
I
up.
have as a photographer, I have bookings in October that have been canceled to the following year. Yeah, I mean, I have a great 2021, and what was going to be a good 2020 is now going to be a fabulous 2021.
So that was really hard for us because we're a tourist-driven community. Our number one industry here is tourism and commercial fishing and logging. And so they all kind of share that number one spot. And so for us, being a tourist-driven industry, we lost every booking for the next few months. And that was, for being a small business here, it was bad enough to have to close, but to have to refund all of these retainers. And so I imagine when people are ready, we're going to get back to work and we're going to have a blast. Like, everyone's going to be ready.
So how are you spending your days now that you're not at the studio?
Lots of yard work. I'm enjoying time with my son. You know, like I said, he's a senior, and so he's getting ready to go off to college. So this has kind of been a nice time to spend with him. Marketing, designing things and ideas that we want to do in the studio moving forward. So maybe we're not working with the public, but I'm here a lot on the computer, getting our marketing ready.
All righty. Let's end on one more picture here. Tell everybody about this one, and I will
Oh,
hide myself.
so that is not a red dress. That is a 30-foot army green parachute that we wrapped around. I told her basically to pick the color that she wants her dress to be. And this is the one that took 8 people, 8 of us. We were literally throwing this parachute up into the air and letting the wind catch it. There are several lights on her. And this one is one of my favorite images. And she's on this rock. Well, we have these lights that we have these guys on these rocks holding over, and then other guys on the ground throwing her dress. For this one, we actually picked a windy day so we could get, you know, that movement, that ebb and flow of her dress, which worked perfect on the coast. It was a challenge, but one of my all-time favorite images, my all-time favorite sessions. Simply Design Studios with an S.com. I think we picked a really good day, especially for the color that she had on here. Thank you. Especially for the color that she had chosen, worked so well. It was just a nice, you know, we make the fog work. You can see right behind her, there's a lot of fog. So we don't close a session or cancel it on account of fog. We just find ways to use it and highlight it a bit.
I was mentioning yesterday that once upon a time I went on a bike ride, one of those week-long bike tours of Vermont. And when I got there on the first day, it was pouring rain. I said, "What we got to do now?" They said, "Get on the bike."
Yeah,
Right.
that's here. You just get out and work in it, and you
Yeah.
find ways to make it more interesting.
Any questions? Oh, tell everybody you're a singer as well. Beyond being a master photographer, you're also a singer. Tell everybody
Yes.
about your singing.
So music is my first love. Before I had children, I used to travel and sing and opened up for concerts. So that is my first passion. My studio is great. So, you know, when my employees come in and they might catch me singing my guts out, which is kind of fun. And then because my husband is a commercial fisherman, I chose to sit back a little bit so he could, you know, commercial fishing is very demanding. He leaves for long periods of a time. And so just once we had children, it was hard for me to travel and do those things. But then I found photography, and it is a very close second love there.
What are some of the songs that you like to sing?
Oh, my all-time favorite is "I Will Always Love You." My second one is "Broken Wing." I love those hearty, meaty ballads that you can hold your breath and belt it out.
Okay. As you know, I have a few guitars on the wall over there. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
There's one right here. I'm just thinking, do I know I Will Always Love You? It'll
Do
take
you
me a
know?
while.
Do you know "Crazy" and "C"?
Yeah, okay, I'll start.
Okay.
All right, you start.
Crazy, I'm crazy. Wait a minute. It's been like 10 years since I sing that. Am I on key? I'm crazy.
I think there's a lag, so let's just do Sharon Biddinger, simplydesignstudios.com. Thank you so much for joining us on this Photowalks Talks live stream on YouTube. To see more of Sharon's work, simplydesignstudios.com.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's so great to see you again, and it's great to talk about photography and nerd out a little bit.
It's a lot of fun, and let's give a shout out to Be Live TV because this really looks good, and being able to switch to the pictures and everything, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I've seen your other interviews, and they're great. I'm glad you showed me that. Yeah, it's been great.
All right, thanks, Sharon. Have give my regards to your husband. Tell him to enjoy the sea tomorrow.
Thanks, Jeff. Nice seeing you again.
Okay,
You have a
bye
good.
bye. Okay, we did it.
Whew.
Last night one froze in the middle, so we got all the way through.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
and your ring
Huh?